What's up, guys? It's Bastian here, coming at you with a Gazelle Close Escort Piracy deck today. The reason why we chose this particular ship to do our wrongdoing as pirates is because this card is the perfect pirate ship in the game at this point in time. That's of course only my opinion. Just going through the stats here, we have a 4 cost for initiative, so that's actually pretty high. That means that normally you are going to be taking the initiative, but we also got cards to boost this even higher, so we might be actually looking at 6, 8, 10 initiative at some point during the game. We have a jump capability of 2, we have 1 attack value and 2 defense value. Now, immediately if I went for any ship that is good for piracy, I would want to have at least 1 attack value on that ship, which significantly narrows our choices down. Again, you can go with other ships, but that is just kind of like my thing. I want to have some built-in attack value. We can carry 3 crew. We can have 1 computer, 2 hardpoint, 2 hull, and 1 internal upgrade to the ship. Now this is the biggie here. This is why we like this card very much. Our warfare cards gain +1 EV. That's the credit side. And we also have another effect, which is an activator effect. In the ready phase, we can tap our ship. This is only usable at the start of the phase, start of the ready phase, and we lose 2 initiative, but we gain 2 jump. Now, we're not really going to be using this because, for all intents and purposes, we do not care about solving contracts. In fact, when we get to the latter part of the video and we look at our contracts deck, I'm actually going to be focusing on the hindrances because that's all we care about. We just want to make our opponent's life as difficult as possible. So on the back of it, of course, we have these beautiful full art images of the ships, and you get this with all the ships that are not foil. The promo ones don't have this on the back. You can get this as a print on demand, and if you wonder where to get it from, I am going to leave the link where to get it printed from at the description of this video. If you like that, make sure you also like the video, leave a comment below about what you think about this deck, and if you haven't subbed yet, please do so. It does really help me out a lot. Into the deck. We're going to start with our connections. First, we're going to look at what sort of other locales, what sort of other organizations can help us out in our very naughty pirate operations. So we are going to start with 2 copies of Class X Star Town Bar. These are 2 locale connections, and these are only a 2-off because we kind of want to use this towards the beginning of the game, towards the latter part of the game, when we want to ensure that we have perhaps specific unsavory cards in our deck. What's also cool about Class X Star Town Bar is it gets all the other connections that we have in our deck, because we have 3 copies of Legs Go's Surplus Outlet and we have 3 copies of Crazy Eddie's Discount Depot. So, what to look at for here is, of course, Class X Star Town Bar is the jump board to get any one of these 2, and then these can sort out most of our needs anyway. We won't be able to have 2 locales in play, so we're going to have to say eventually goodbye to the Star Town Bar, which will be replaced by the Surplus Outlet eventually. The reason why this is just slightly better than this one is because we kind of want to ensure that our ship upgrades get into our hands, and it does also search for gear for the measly cost of 1, so that will become very useful, kind of ensuring that we normally have an out from any particular situation based on the gear that we have in our deck. I mean, ship upgrade and gear. And Crazy Eddie's Discount Depot will become very important to actually be able to play these ship upgrades into game towards the middle and the latter part of any match, just purely because the more infamy tokens we have, and we will have a lot, every single infamy token will make our procurement phase card procurements more expensive. Every single infamy token means all our ship upgrades, crew members, and gear will become 1 EV more expensive. That's for every infamy token, every single infamy token. So crazy at this discount bar is going to ensure that when we tap this bad boy, the next upgrade, well, the upgrade we're currently playing, because this is done obviously as a connection, so you kind of use it during the payment. It will be 2 EV cheaper, which obviously will mean that we can sort of deal a little bit better with those infamy tokens as the game goes on. Once per turn, because we don't have any way to sort of untap this or ready this, but it's still going to be useful. Okay, nice. So these are the connections we work with. Now let's move on to our crew. So the crew is fairly small for the ship. Let me just remind you that we can only carry 3 crew members at any point in time. So it will be crucial that we get the right selection of the crew here. And we're really only focusing on a few skills that we want to get from our crew, and we're kind of trying to double down on them. And one very important option, well, not option really, a criteria for me when I was building the crew was that none of them actually have abilities where they have to exert. So we're not relying on any one of our crew members to have to be ready to be used. So what we got here, our little crew of pirates. First of all, we got Dulcie. Dulcie gives us expert level combat, which is really good to have. And it's particularly going to be useful for just ensuring that we've got somebody who is very hearty, 3 health. Resilient means Dulcie is going to go back to full health at the beginning of each round. But Dulcie cannot use any gear lacking primitive, so Dulcie can only use primitive gear. We don't have any primitive gear in the deck. It's just to make sure that we can cover the combat, and Dulcie is going to be very good for that. Kairut Naba is fantastic, gives us expert level starship operations, has a health of 4. There are only 2 cards in the game currently, crew member wise, that have 4 health. He's or she's invulnerable to hindrances, which means no pesky gear from our opponent that would kind of keep Kairut Naba tapped or anything where we kind of have to pay costs or anything like that. And what's really important, Kairut does not exert to play any heroic actions that require starship operations. And one of the main cards in the entire deck is of course a heroic action with starship operation requirements. Okay, next one is Ace Turner. Human, gives us expert level Underworld, which is going to be very useful for our other heroic action card. He's got Infamous and Concealed 2. Infamous means we need to have at least 1 infamy token to be able to play Ace Turner. And when you play Ace Turner, when he comes into play, target an Imperial card, target's controller pays its cost, or the target is returned to its owner's hand. This kind of gives you a flavor of what we're going for in this deck. Everything is, okay, well, you can either return it to your hand, and in that case, if you want to play it again, you're going to have to pay the cost again anyway, or you have to pay the cost right now. We have quite a few cards that do this to our opponent, and it gets very annoying for them. That's all about taxing them in any way possible. Remember, if you commit piracy instead of pursuing a contract during your turn, that means however points of damage your attack gets through the attack value that you hit them with, they will either have to take structural damage to their ship upgrades, or if they don't want to, or if they don't have any, they have to pay every single attack value as a cost. So that's all about milling. Basically, this is a mill deck. And then our final pirate here is Gwargorsu, and he gives us basic level combat and basic level underworld. Health of 3 is good, but he really shines in this deck, and only in a piracy deck, because his sole function is to do piracy. After you successfully resolve a piracy action, inflict up to 2 damage divided between 1 or more target crew member. And obviously you're going to target your opponent, so you can either deal 2 damage to one of your opponent's crew members, or deal 2 damage divided by between those two crew members. So they all do something that kind of works for us, particularly piracy wise. Obviously, these two guys pay off really well, but he's a good enabler for us, and Tulsi is also just in there to make sure that we can cover that particular area. Okay, nice. Let's move into our gear. So moving into the gear, what we wanted to make sure is that first of all we don't run too many, because again they will get more expensive as the game goes on the more infamy tokens we have. But you can't really run any decks without a frag grenade. It is one of the best, if not the best, generic gear that we have in the game. It's of course a weapon. Now in the action phase, a crew member must use it, which means they have to exert and jettison the grenade. So they throw the grenade and they inflict 2 damage on up to 2 different crew members controlled by the same captain. So that's 4 damage altogether. This, of course, combined with Gwargorsu's effect, will mean that in that particular turn, when we have a frag grenade in play and we do piracy and we have Gwargorsu in play, that's 6 damage. That is very likely to take out 2 of our opponent's crew members. And again, that is them losing an investment that at some point they paid EV for. The second one, and I think this is again really good in this particular deck for sure, but I've ran this in previous decks as well. Realms of Rampage. This is an alteration and it's a hindrance, so you would attach it to one of your opponent's crew members. When you attach it, that crew member gets exerted. And in the ready phase, at the end of the ready phase, so your opponent will ready all their crew members, and at the end of the phase, this Realms of Rampage will then exert that crew member unless his controller pays one. So it's just another way of taxing our opponent, ensuring that if they have a crew member that actually survives our barrage of different damage dealing effects and cards, then we can still tax them. And sometimes we'll pick something that obviously is quite a benefit for them to have. They might pay the 1 tax, it kind of already pays off then, and then we just still kill it if we can. But it's all about taxing our opponent, as I said. So that's it. Again, we're not running too many gear because we don't really want to overwhelm our deck with stuff that gets more expensive as the game goes on. But we do have quite a few ship upgrades here. There are quite a lot of cards that really help us with piracy, and there are 2 kinds of piracy decks that you can build with the current card pool. I try to go for the cards that are just straightforward, increase attack value, or make our opponent either pay or discard through some way or another. So we are going to start with 2 copies of the expanded data core. This is an internal upgrade. It gives us +1 computer slot, which is really important. We are running 2 particularly important computers in the deck, so this is what we are really trying to do. We give up our internal slot for an extra computer. The rest is pretty much uneventful. In the resource phase, we could exert this pay 1 and use a tech token, a basic tech token, to add an expert tech token into our resource pool. We're not going to use that in this deck, not in this deck, but it's a nice multifunctional card. It can go into many decks where you can kind of make something out of any one of those 2 effects. The next card we have 2 of are passive sensor markings. Now this is a very cool card. After we gain an infamy token, all other captains with fewer infamy tokens must pay 2. We can also decide to jettison this card, replenish 1 for each infamy token you possess. The jettison effect you're obviously not going to be using. Haphazardly do it once a game if you have a lot of cards to replenish, and you probably will have because we'll run quite a lot of events in the deck. But really what we get a lot of value from is that first effect. Every time we gain an infamy token, all other captains will have to pay 2 that have less infamy tokens for us. Now, this is going to be brilliant as long as you don't play against another piracy deck. If you do come across another piracy deck, you have still a good chance to have more piracy tokens than your opponent, but it will be just a little bit more difficult to pull this off. This is our first computer upgrade. And then we have 3 copies of false registry markings, one of the most important cards in this piracy deck. Of course, it's unsavory, so we can search it with 2 of the 3 connections we have in the deck. And by exerting this, we can ignore the cost increase from the from the infamy tokens we have for the next card we procure. So this gives us a slightly better effect really than Crazy as Discount Depot. But that kind of means that even if we have quite a lot of infamy tokens, we can still kind of deal with that price increase. And forced registry markings particularly says, well, you don't have to deal with it at all. So that's really good. We like that. Okay, our next ship upgrade, and this is also that one, of course, was a hull upgrade. This is also a hull upgrade. Our ship can carry 2 hull upgrades, by the way. And this is the dreaded Visage or Visage. Funny enough, it does have a Gazelle close escort ship painted in a pirate fashion, and so it really doesn't meet the flavor of this deck as well. Again, unsavory, so we shouldn't have any difficulties finding this in the deck. Cost 0, just as the force registry markings. So even with the increased costs through our infamy tokens, it should be relatively okay, easy enough to pay the cost of this card. For each infamy token we possess, we gain 1 extra initiative. This is what I referred to at the beginning of the deck, saying that we might be looking at 6, 8, even 10 initiative. We don't need that much. Usually even a 4 can be enough to make sure that we take initiative in each round. It's just kind of make sure that we're always doing what we want to do first, rather than our opponent and having to react to what they do. Now, we could have 2 of these in play. If we get to a point in the game where we don't need to have a false registry markings, then we can just replace 1 with a second copy of Dreaded Visage, because again, as I said, we can carry 2 hulls in the ship, and we have a tonnage of 300, so everything's obviously going to, all these have a tonnage of 100, so that won't be a problem at all. Now again, this ship upgrade can be jettisoned to remove target Corsair complication, only usable if we have 2 or more infamy tokens. We're not going to use that, as I said, unless we are absolutely forced upon having to go after contracts. We're not going to do that. All we want to do is be pirates and do piracy stuff. Our second computer, and where the expanded data core comes into the picture to allow us to carry both passive sensor markings and tactical display. Again, this is, as I said, a tonnage 100 upgrade. The last one we have, that's a tonnage 100. Does cost 2, but it's a warfare card, so it means that we can obviously use it for the paying for 2 cost. And I haven't really gone over which ones are the warfare cards that we can go. Maybe I'll do a little summary in the end. For a basic Starship Operations token, we either get 1 attack value or +1 defense value until the end of the round, or if we have an expert, then we get both an attack value and a defense value. Don't really care, we just want to get that attack value, honestly. That's what we realistically care about, and it is perfect to give us a little bit more firing power. But when it comes to the ultimate firing power, we are running 2 GSBAG Mason turrets, which give us +2 attack value and give us critical 2. Now, critical 2 means we can ignore our opponent's armor. Up to 2 armor can be ignored with a critical firing power, but just the fact that it gives us +2 is fantastic. If we just get 1 of these down and we have our ship down, that means that's an attack value of 3. If our opponent is not prepared with a good defense against that, we are going to be immediately bringing down some rain of fire. The first and only upgrade with 200 tonnage requirement, we easily meet that, not a problem, and it's another warfare card, so we actually can use it for a payment cost of 1. Not that you would want to do that, but if you mill off the top to pay, then at least there is something still. You're not pulling a complete dud and not being able to pay at all. So this is it for our ship upgrades. As you can see, there's quite a lot of focus on this, but that's why also we've got a couple of cards to search these out from the deck. So yeah, unsavory, 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 and these are all ship upgrades. There are a few avenues to get them. And now let's go and look at our heroic actions. We're running 3 Lost and Found and 3 Dance Among the Heavens. Lost and Found is where, well, our buddy Gwargorsu will be useful with his basic underworld, but also Ace Turner will be able to pull off the expert level effect of Lost and Found. Unsavory, so searchable, and costs obviously 0. Basically all the heroic actions cost 0. And we can either jettison a target gear, obviously we want to do that to one of our opponents if they have a good weapon or something, or if there's a hindrance put onto one of those guys. Either way, this is a staple in most decks in my opinion. Or if we have Ace Turner down, then we can also ensure that we can steal something basically. So if our opponent has like a nice weapon, even like a grenade or something, just steal it if you can. Get it onto Ace and make sure you use it as soon as you can. Dance Among the Heavens is one of the pivotal cards in the deck, and that's the main reason why we run Kairi Nabo. We need somebody with expert level starship operations ideally. This is a warfare card, so you can use it for a payment cost of 3. Try not to do that though. Again, it's if you mill it from the top for a payment, that's the only time when this is, in my opinion, acceptable. Otherwise, this is again one of the pivotal cards in the deck because it does so much. Even for a basic skill, Starship Operations, you attach this card to your opponent's ship as a trifling ship upgrade, internal upgrade with 1 hull integrity that provides you attach it to your ship that provides you +2 initiative. So again, as I said, with the initiative, we're easily going to be looking at 6, 8, maybe even 10 with this deck. But if you have Kairat Nabal, and we have that expert level starship ops, then you do as above. It still gets attached to your ship. It still gives you +2 initiative, but then all your opponents with lower initiative discard 2 cards from their hand. Okay, they choose, but again, this is all about that taxing effect that we talked about. And the beauty of this thing is we don't even have to tap Kairat Nabal. So if he happened to have a frag grenade on him, then guess what? He could use Dance Among the Heavens, not tap for it, and then he can still use the frag grenade, tap and use it. So we just get nice little multifunctionality out of Kairat Nabal with this card, or potentially being able to play 2. He could also do that because of course they need exerting to do that. Not Kairat, he could play all 3 in 1 turn if you wanted to. He can absolutely do that and it will be fantastic. Okay, so this is it for our heroic actions. And now moving on to our events. We have 3 copies of Homesick. This is, first of all, what you need to understand is because neither heroic action nor event cards are predominantly procured in the procurement phase, they don't become more expensive because of the infamy tokens. The rules specifically explain that it is only the procurement phase that is affected. Cards that are procured during that phase are affected, and it also specifically details that those are crew members, ship upgrades, of course your connections and gear. So of course we do have quite a few event cards here. So Homesick, action phase. Target committed captain must travel the distance, it is a distance, of the contract the captain is pursuing or abandon the contract. So basically it's just another, forcing our opponent to pay. It's another taxing effect. I like it. Quite nasty. It is only good though, however, if you go up against merchants and not against pirates. 3 copies of target or removal. Maybe not the best event in the deck, but I still like it because it gives us information. Look at target captain's hand and choose a card. The chosen card is discarded, then the target captain draws a card. So at the end of the day, we're still discarding. No, they don't actually come out as a -1 in their hand. In fact, we are in a -1 situation, but we gain information. We still discard 1, and it could be a finisher too if they can't draw any more cards, then they lose the game anyway. 3 copies of Just a Little Longer. This is a really cool card. Attach target ship upgrade from your discard pile to your ship. Do not pay its cost. This upgrade has trifling. If the upgrade is in play at the end of the round, disperse it. So that means that any and all of the ship upgrades we've just gone through, for a turn, you can bring them back from your discard pile, use them, and then they go and leave the game. Disperse it means that they leave the game. But this can be particularly cool for something that gives you an effect like false registry markings. You really want to make sure that you can recruit another crew member during the procurement. Um, you won't be able to do that because the action phase after the procurement, so that's my bad. This would be another one that doesn't really matter because of course the sequence is decided at the beginning of the turn, but this could be really cool. This could be really cool. Just get tactical display out, get maybe another extra attack value or something. And of course, one of the big ones that you would want to bring back is the turret. So that's the main one that if you can bring that back, do not pay its cost. Just give you +2 extra firepower. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant, brilliant. Main target for the card. Then we got 3 copies of Strategic Serenity, another warfare card, and it can pay for 3, which is really good again. That just kind of ensures that when the infamy tokens go up, I mean, this ship is like, you got more infamy tokens, don't worry about them because your warfare cards can pay for more. It's kind of like just perfect for pirating. In the resolution phase, you gain +1 defense value until the end of the round. If you have more cards in hand than your opponent after playing this card, you also gain +2 attack value against that opponent until the end of the round, which is brilliant. Again, just another way to give us more firepower, and it is quite likely that you're going to have more cards in your hand than your opponent, especially when we get to the mid or the late game and you don't really want to pay too many cards because you either have them in play or they're way too expensive to play them. Next one is Predatory Tactics, another warfare. Target ship gains +1 attack value and +1 defense value until the end of the round. If the target of this card is your ship and you inflict 1 or more damage this round as the attacker replenish this, so not only does it give you plus attack plus defense, and you obviously are going to, most likely you're going to give yourself this effect, you also get to replenish this card, which means it goes back to the bottom of your deck. Fantastic. You keep refueling your deck, which is that could be a game winner. And then we got 2 copies of Alien Persecution. This is predominantly in the deck just to make sure that we can cover the non-human crew members in case we don't have a card that can deal damage, because we are not going full out on the damage dealing cards. We really only have Guargorsu, we have the frag grenade, so this is kind of like just making sure that we can just straight up remove no human crew members from our opponent if we need to. And it is an unsavory card, so of course it can be searched. These are the event cards, and this brings us to the end of the deck itself. I'm just really quickly going to run through the contract deck. So as I said, we're not really focusing on the contracts here, we are focusing on the hindrances. So we start with 2 Crooked Customs. We're always attaching all of these to our opponent's contracts, by the way, and we don't care what they attach to ours. We just want to make sure that they have to return a card into the hand, pay a cost or something like that. So Crooked Customs pay 2. Then we have firmware update errors, pay 1 for each ship upgrade attached to your ship. Again, our opponent's going to flip this, they will have to do this payment cost. It might be 0, it might be 5. I don't know what kind of deck they play. The more ship upgrades they have, the more we punish them for it. It's kind of one of those, it also gives them a bit of a kind of like a psychological disadvantage. If they don't want to take damage to the to the ship upgrade structure integrity and they keep them, then we still tax them because, well, okay, you decided you want to keep your upgrades, well then pay their cost, pay the tax on them. Then we got 2 copies of Old Debts, pay 4 or jettison a crew member you control. Often it's cheaper to just jettison the crew member, but then you at the end of the day still lose the cost and the card you put into play. It's a tough decision, and they have to make that decision. Then we got 2 copies of Cryptic Rider, pay the abandonment cost of attached contract. That doesn't mean that they actually abandon it, but they have to pay the cost. Again, it's just pay a cost effect, which is quite nice because, of course, as you can see, a lot of these also increase that cost. So this could be 0, this could be 5, I don't know, whatever game state you might find playing it. We got luxury tax, 2 copies. Reveal your hand, then discard all cards in your hand with an EV greater than 1. So anything that you can use to actually pay good values with, 2, 3 value costs, and you're gonna have to lose them. So that is, again, it can be very frustrating, and I like that a lot. 2 copies of Squabbling Crew. Choose an opposing captain, so your opponent flips this, they will probably choose you if it's a 1v1 game. That captain looks at your hand and discards 1 card from it. So they have to choose me, I look at their hand, I discard a card from it. Fantastic. Not only do I get information, again, they lose a card. 2 copies of Last Minute Revisions. They can draw 3 cards, then discount 2 cards at random. This can potentially be used for us as well if we, for some reason, we want to use this. Maybe particularly early game, if we want to see a particular card and we haven't seen it, then we could decide early game we're going to pursue a particular contract, flip this, we know we're going to flip this, we get that plus 3 card selection, and then discard 2. It is done at random, so it's not a graceful charity, but it's still giving us potentially something else to work with. 2 copies of Opportunistic Raider. So our opponent needs to have either 2+ firepower or 2+ defense, or 6+ initiative, or they need to jettison a ship upgrade attached to their ship. Quite likely they're going to have to jettison a ship upgrade attached to their ship. Letting things slide. Return a ship upgrade you control to its owner's hand. So again, this is just like, well, you paid some cost. Sometimes they don't, sometimes, and there are quite a few ship upgrades with 0 cost, but sometimes they will have to. And then finally we got 2 copies of Wanted. Return a crew member you control to its owner's hand. So it does the same thing as letting things slide, but it targets one of their crew members. And this is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the infamous Gazelle Close Escort Pirate deck that I will be sharing with you. I am sharing with you here. I hope you also like the new playmat. That was a request, and I managed to bag one with Noble 9 Games. I wanted to go direct to Traveller. Unfortunately, the shipment costs to the UK are just not feasible. It's 4 times the cost of the playmat, or 5 times the cost of the playmat, so that's unreasonable to me. But please try and buy straight from Traveller CCG. They still have loads of products. I do have a feeling once they run out, there are not going to be any more stuff coming out. So do grab what you need now whilst it's not too late. And again, as I said, if you haven't subbed yet, please do so. Leave a like, leave a comment below. Let's discuss this deck. Let's discuss your opinion. Up until next time, Bussy signing out. Peace.